Hi, everybody. It's Mrs. Jana. How are you? I hope everyone's had a good week. Nice to see you, even though I can't really see you. I hope everybody is just fine, and I miss you. Me too. I miss you too. So you know Priscilla misses you. So I wanted to say hi to Harry and Helen and Ruthie, Edgar, Eliza, Izzy, Liam, and Sophia, if you're listening, Zania. Also, some of the older children who I know aren't in my class, but maybe you're listening in. Alexandra, Ben, Alexandra, William, the other Ben, Martin. So if you should be listening, or your parents or anyone, hi. And it's hard to believe. It's almost Memorial Day. We've been meeting this way for a while now, haven't we? We haven't been in our classroom since March, which is really hard to believe. So I hope you have a good weekend this weekend. Maybe you'll be able to do a barbecue with your family, maybe take a walk, or go to a park, wearing your masks, being socially distant. Whatever you do, I hope you have some time to get outside, and if it's raining, maybe you can play a game inside with your family or work on a puzzle. But I hope that you enjoy the weekend, and let's hope that soon we'll be able to get outside more during the summer. So I have something I wanted to talk to you about today, and our friend Priscilla wants to help me because it's about something that happened this week. Yeah, you know what happened? What happened, Priscilla? I got very mad at Mrs. Jana. I was so mad at her. You know why I was mad? I was mad because she wouldn't let me go outside. Nope. Well, she let me go in the backyard, but I wanted to go all the way to the playground. I wanted to fly around the neighborhood. I wanted to see my butterfly friends. I wanted to fly to the church, go in the window to the classroom, see if you all were there. And Mrs. Jana said, no, Priscilla, you can't do that. Well, all of that's true. I told that to Priscilla because it wasn't safe to do it right now. And she got very mad at me. Yep. I went to my room and I stayed there for a long time. And she did. And I went and checked on her, and I could tell that she was not happy. She was up in the room. She was very quiet, wasn't talking to me. So I left her alone for a while. And then in a little while, she came downstairs. And you know what she did? She came to me, and I'll let her tell you what she said. I said, I'm sorry. I'm not really mad at you now. I was mad at other things. And you know what? I forgive you. Do you forgive me? And I told her, of course I forgave her. I knew she wasn't really mad at me. She was mad at not being able to go outside and play. And that's perfectly understandable right now. So she forgave me, and I forgave her. And that's what I wanted to talk about today, was forgiveness. That's something that Jesus talks about a lot in the Bible. It's very important to him and to God that we be able to forgive each other. And that's not always easy, is it? And sometimes there are things that happen or that people do, and it can be difficult to forgive. Here's a story. I don't think we ever talked about it in Sunday school, but you might remember some of these things. There was a disciple, and I think you remember, we did talk about disciples. They are the helpers, the people who help Jesus teach about God and teach about his stories. And Peter was one of the disciples. And at the Last Supper, and you might remember we talked about that, that was the last dinner Jesus had with his disciples before he was killed. And at that supper, Peter said to Jesus how much he loved him. And Jesus said, Peter, I know that, but before tomorrow morning, you are going to deny me 3 times. Deny means tell Jesus that you didn't know who he was. or tell other people that you didn't know who he was. And Peter said, no, I would never deny you, Jesus. I would never do that. So later, after the soldiers took Jesus and Jesus was in jail, Peter went there to try and visit. And some people saw him. And they said, we know you. You know Jesus. You know that man in jail. You're one of his disciples. And Peter said, no, I don't know who he is. And then someone else said that to Peter. And Peter said, no, I don't know who that is. And then a soldier said that to Peter. And Peter said, no, you're wrong. I don't know who Jesus is. So that was 3 times that Peter denied Jesus. He said he didn't know who he was. So after Jesus died, you might remember, very important, he came back to earth for a while. He came back to visit different people, and he visited some of his disciples. And he went to the beach and was on the beach watching the disciples fish. And he waved to them, and they waved back. And at first they didn't know who that man was. And then they said, oh, it's Jesus. So Peter went back to talk to Jesus. And Jesus said to Peter that he wanted him to do something very important. And he actually said it to Peter 3 times. You might remember Peter denied Jesus 3 times. And 3 times Jesus said to Peter, I want you to continue my work. I want you to tell my stories and to talk about God and teach about Christianity. So even though he didn't say the words to Peter, I forgive you, he did forgive him. It was in his heart. He gave Peter one of the most important jobs he could think of, and that was teaching about God's work. He forgave Peter, even though Peter told people 3 different times that he didn't know who Jesus was when Jesus was in jail. And I bet sometimes you've had something happen to you, maybe in school, or someone said something mean, or they might have done something like take your papers or a toy or your pencil or something that was upsetting. And I bet you're pretty mad at them. But it wouldn't surprise me if you forgave them, because sometimes it's really hard to stay mad and it doesn't feel good inside. And that's the other part of forgiveness. It's not only to forgive someone, it's to help you feel better inside of yourself, because you've decided to forgive that person, to tell them it's okay. So it helps you in your heart, and it helps them feel better too. So that's what forgiveness is about. And I bet that all of you have been mad at someone. There's certainly a lot right now to be mad at. Like Priscilla, being mad about not going outside, mad about not playing with friends, mad about not going to school or to church, mad about not going to the playground. We have lots to be mad at, and that's perfectly understandable. But sometimes it's better to just let go of that. In your heart, to forgive, to decide you're not going to be mad. And something we sometimes do, like Priscilla got mad at me, even though it's not my fault. She couldn't go outside. I mean, I told her she couldn't, but she knew it was to keep her safe. So if you're mad at your sister or your brother or your mom or your dad because they said you couldn't do something, and so you're mad at them because of the virus, maybe in your heart you can look at that and you can think, it's not their fault. I'm going to forgive them. And you know what? I bet they'll forgive you right back for being mad at them. So that's something to think about. I felt a lot better after I forgave Mrs. Jana and she forgave me. It made me feel so good inside. Yep, I think that that's the truth. So think about that this week. And next week we'll talk about something else. And before we go, let's say a prayer. Dear God, thank you for each other. Thank you for our families. Thank you for this beautiful world outside. Thank you for Priscilla. And thank you for the time we have together each week. I am so grateful for it. I hope you are too. Dear God, keep us safe this week. Keep us safe always. Amen. All right, everybody, have a great weekend. Take good care of yourselves, and I'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye. Wait a minute. Bye, everybody. Bye. Bye-bye.